Hi, my name is Arthur Saftless. I'm also known as Nirvan. I started this group that I'm making the video for, how to love yourself. And this video is about the mind and more to the point, how to get out of the mind. I've written quite a bit about how love is not of the mind. We have a mind and we have a heart. The mind thinks and the body feels. The heart is a center of our chakras, where we feel love. The mind, all our minds have been programmed and conditioned by this rather insane, heartless world we grew up in. I'm not saying you have to agree with that statement. Most people see it as a truth these days, especially as the world gets crazier. What I'm saying is, all the insanity that we experience in our lives is because of our attachment to our mind, our programmed mind. So once you know that you have a mind that you might know is not you, you might know that you are love, or at least believe you are love. The question is, how do we get out of this mind that loves to control? Because that's the program of the world. All the politicians who run this world, everything is about control. Love is not about control. Love is an element of what the Zen people call no mind. No mind, to me, is a truly open mind. But it is not the mind that I was talking about earlier, the world mind, the one we've been programmed to believe is us. So the mind runs basically how we normally behave, how we normally feel, and how we normally think. And again, I don't want to get into too much of it. I could touch on the fact that we're programmed to a dualistic mindset, because we tend to think in concepts, the concepts of the opposites, good and bad, right and wrong, beautiful and ugly. We tend to judge most of what we observe through the mind. And the mind lives in time. And how I'm going to show you or demonstrate how to get out of the mind has to do with time. The mind of time knows only past and future. The mind of time does not know the present moment of time. The present moment is the space of no mind. The present moment is out of the mind. It's a truly spiritual experience, as is love. The no-mind space has two aspects. It has love as one aspect and silence as another aspect. But all that aside, what we want to learn from this video is how to get out of this mind so that we can get into our heart. And what I'm saying is that because the mind is grounded in time, we can use time to get out of the mind, to defeat the mind. I discovered this for myself many years ago. And when I discovered it, I was jumping for joy. It was such a crazy discovery. And shortly after I discovered it, I forgot all about it for about a year. When I rediscovered it, I was incredibly shocked that I could have forgotten something that I was literally jumping for joy about. So my insight into how I happened to forget about a great discovery is that the mind will remind you of anything and everything except meditation and except how to defeat the mind or how to get out of the mind. So this is why my master Osho had us wear red clothes, had us wear a mala around our neck, was to constantly remind us that he was in our life, that there is such a thing as meditation, that there's such a thing as no mind. It's very difficult to remember because the world is very much with us here and now. That's I think a quote from Whitman or one of those great poets. Anyway, so how do we get out of the mind? The mind is grounded in time. I am going to show you a method to play with time. Now, after I found this method, I had some insights into it that might be good as a preface to it. What you might observe is that everything that you do has a certain time element. In other words, if I take a drink of this glass of water, I'm going to show you the time how I normally drink a glass of water. It's very interesting. So my hand comes up like this, I pick up the glass, and I put the glass down. That's how long it takes me to drink a glass of water. You have a certain amount of time that it takes you. Everybody does it at their time, the way that they do everything. In other words, there's a time that it takes us to walk across the room, the way we eat, the way we do everything we do in a certain time frame. And we can observe other people just by how fast or slow they do whatever they do. Everybody is pretty much conditioned to the time that it takes to do something. A small anecdote about this, actually. When I first discovered this, I was in a card game with a bunch of guys that I would sometimes play with. And I remember picking up my cards very slowly, because I'm going to demonstrate how something very slow in a minute. And these guys went totally crazy. Like, come on, pick up the cards, pick up the cards. What the hell are you doing? You know? If you want to drive somebody crazy, just the simplest way to drive somebody that you want to drive crazy, just do something much slower in their presence with how you do anything. Pick up the fork really slowly as you're eating. Brush your teeth much slower. Do anything in a different time frame, of preferably slower. And people can't stand it. It makes them crazy. Okay, so here's the meditation. I'm going to add awareness of time to how I drink from this glass of water. That's it. But it's going to knock me out of my mind. And you might feel it just by watching me. And if you feel something just from watching me, then when you try it, when you play with time, it will affect you much stronger. It's just like pulling the plug out of the mind. So without further ado, because this is probably longer than I probably wanted this video so far, I'm going to have a sip of water. Now, what I forgot to mention, because I've shown this to many people, I like to ask them, like, when you originally had a glass, when they originally, let's say, I say, okay, have a sip of the water, and they would go like that, right? And then I would say to them, there's no way you could tell me, I think, what finger touched the glass first. And I don't think there's anybody in the world that could know that. Because we do everything rather unconsciously. So now what I'm going to do is drink from this glass quite consciously with the most awareness that I can gather to demonstrate this method. When I finish, I'm going to finish with my hands on my heart. And because I'm going to be in a no-mind space, I think I'm going to have my trusty partner turn the video off a couple of minutes, or maybe only 15 seconds after I put the glass down. because it's going to be difficult for me to make any conversation after that. So, okay, here it goes. Anyway, I hope you liked the video, and I'd like to hear from you on the group if this video has helped you. Okay, so here we go. Actually, I think I can say one thing from this space. I had the insight a long time ago that I think is appropriate. If you have heard of the Japanese tea ceremony, the master, I'm sure, I've never been in a real, authentic tea ceremony, Japanese tea ceremony with a master, but I think the way it was probably done was he prepared the tea and moved the cups and did everything with an incredibly slow, aware consciousness. This is, what I've shown you is rather esoteric, and I'm curious to how you react to it. Because what I noticed was that if your energy tends to be masculine, this is you fall into kind of a silence. And if your energy is predominantly feminine, this method of being in the no-mind space will put you in the heart. Either way, they're both beautiful spaces, both out of our mind. So with that, I'm going to have my beautiful assistant turn this thing off. Thank you.